Roles define the control and security of what people can see and do in Quickbase. In this lesson, we'll explore roles and how you can use these features to control access and security in your Quickbase apps. At the end of this lesson, you'll be able to describe what a role is, find where roles are located, create, copy, and edit roles, assign home pages to roles, control the user interface of a role, change the name and description of a role, assign a role to a user, assign multiple roles to a user, assign a role to a group, and understand the impact of having multiple roles. Let's get started. Roles are used to control what users of Quickbase can see and do in their app. Here we have a list of roles and they're named to describe the constituency they support. For instance, the project manager role may define administratively what a project manager may see and do, while a team member role may be limited. It's really up to you. If you can say something about the way you want your users in Quickbase to behave, you can create a unique role for that person or group and do it. By the way, you can create as many roles as you like. There are a couple of ways you can find roles. First, from your home page, click Settings and then Roles. Second, you can find roles by clicking on Users and selecting Manage Roles. Both options get you to this page. You can either create a role by clicking on New Role and enter a name and click OK, or you can click on Make a Copy of this role. Whichever option you choose directs you to a page where you can select between permissions, user interface, or properties of this role. We'll click on the Permissions tab and look at all the tables in this application. Each row controls what the specific table can view and modify. In addition, you can select whether you want this role to add or delete records, to create and share common reports, and extend Editfield Properties control. In a minute, we'll discuss how custom access can veto or override a previous decision to view and modify right down to the field level. Now let's explore the User Interface tab. It is here that we can turn on and off various UI options like customizing reports, personal settings, and all these menu and table display options. You can also select the home page that will be displayed when a person with this role logs into this app. These pages are created and defined under settings from the home page and are explained in more detail in another lesson. There is one other tab, the Properties tab, and this one controls the name and description of the role. Let's create a team member role and assign it to Marshall Dodge. First, from the home page, let's select Settings and click on New over the Roles section. Let's call this Team Member and click OK. Under the Permissions tabs, we can see all the tables. We'll leave the access level as basic, but we could extend user management to the team members role by selecting Basic Access with Sharing. Under the Views column, let's allow each of these tables to be selected as viewable. Here I'm selecting whether all records are viewable or some subset of them. Under the Modify column, we'll allow all companies to be modified and all projects to be modified, but let's only let the team members to only modify those tasks where they are the designated assigned to user. Now, sometimes the requirements are more particular. We could have selected some of these other options or expanded on the assigned to user by clicking on Custom Rule. Here we can extend the conditions for which we can modify by selecting Only let me modify these records where the assigned to is the current user and where the status is not completed. This is an area where you can add more and more conditions, making your role exactly the way that you want to. Let's allow the team members to add everything except resources and to delete none. Now, every Quickbase user has the ability to create their own personal reports, so I'm not extending any Save Common reports. What about Editfield Properties? This is where we could allow them to right-click and add or remove fields from the form, but I don't want them to do this, so let's jump over to Fields. This again is the column that allows us to veto what's viewable or modifiable. Let's click on Custom Access and hide budget hours and budget amount by selecting None, and then Save. We've just defined the permissions for the team member. Next, let's click on the User Interface tab and select the home page we want our team members to use. We'll allow all the other functions to be displayed except grid edit, email, and print links. Let's exit settings and see what it'll be like for a team member. If we are an administrator of this application, we can click on our name and select Test this app as another role. When we do that, we can select Team Member, and our permission changes to that of a team member. As you can see, our default home page is changed to that of a team member, and if we select the task table, we can see all the tasks that are viewable, but only those assigned to me are editable. Let's view one of the records not editable. Notice under Financial Performance, the fields Budget Hours and Budget Amount are not there. Now let's click End Test, and as you can see, we not only can edit the record, but the budget hours and budget amount are now viewable. Now that we've created a role, let's invite Marshall Dodge into the app and assign him the team member role. We click on Users, and then Share App with New Users, and enter his email address, and select the team member role. We can choose to send an email invitation right away or do it later. Let's click Add, and we can edit a custom email and click Send. An email will be sent to the user where they can create their own password and log in. You can also invite a group of users to your Quickbase. Say you've created a group called Quickbase Sales Engineers. Let's click on Share App with New User and start spelling Quickbase Sales Engineers. We can select the group and assign the role as Project Manager, let's say. We can select Add and Send. This is a good time to mention that you can add users to multiple roles. For instance, when I assigned the Quickbase Sales Engineers to the Project Manager role, a couple of them could have had other roles already. An important thing to remember about multiple roles is that they can leak into each other. If you allow viewability in one role and you overlay a second role restricting access, the most permissive option survives. In this lesson, we learned how to describe what a role is, find where roles are located, create, copy, and edit roles, assign home pages to roles, control the user interface of a role, change the name and description of a role, assign a role to a user, assign multiple roles to a user, assign a role to a group, and understand the impact of having multiple roles. This concludes this lesson.